Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Brian Shields on this Tuesday. Thank you for your trust. The forecast from yesterday that we talked about right on track in the Hurricane Center, and it did surprise me a little bit that they went a little aggressive and had this becoming a hurricane pretty quickly. They have now backed off on that a little bit. I know the folks down there, great minds, and one of the issues, I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong, I'm saying the intensity is an issue like we've talked about, and they've been expressing this as well. It's very hard to tell the forecast intensity of these systems. So they're kind of dealing with that. I'm dealing with that as well. I'm watching all the stuff they're putting out. But again, they have backed off a little bit on the intensity, the forecast intensity, more in line of what we were talking about together yesterday. So I want to get into all of that. Now, here it is again. This is Tropical Storm Bret. Over the last 12 to 18 hours, it is not any better organized. That's some good news. So it flared up yesterday, but it's generally looking the same. And they're going to get some hurricane hunters into this pretty soon, and that will give us very good data. And then the models get even better. Once the hurricane hunters get out there, they drop stuff in the atmosphere to get all those readings, and that does help the modeling. I'm going to go I want to take you island by island as we go forward, what to expect, the exact time frame for what Bret means as it moves into the Caribbean. And yes, I'm watching that blob back behind it. Now, storms don't usually merge. Sometimes a bigger system could take over or they rotate around each other, but these as of now are going to stay separate systems. And I'll talk about that second one in a moment. Here's this from the National Hurricane Center. And again, yesterday, my friends in Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, it was showing a hurricane nearby, right? Remember that? If you did see that, it came out and they had H's here, which meant hurricane, but they have backed off on it. It was what I was talking about yesterday. There is going to be a lot of wind shear. Now, it's still a question mark. We're all seeing the same stuff as far as what the atmosphere may or may not do. The intensity is very tough, but as of now, they are making this a tropical storm in the Caribbean, and a weakening one at that. Now, they have it strengthened into a hurricane, and I see that. There is a potential that this does become a hurricane as it continues to make its way off to the west as we go over the next couple days and then start to weaken. So all the models now in good agreement. Remember yesterday we were talking about how that European model and that Canadian model were looking to be more of that likely scenario, and you see all the models in agreement taking whatever this is into the Caribbean, okay? So with that said, again, the forecast track, that is more certain, and it's easier to actually forecast a track. It is harder to forecast the intensity. So the forecast track will take a system very close to Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, near St. Lucia, Barbados, and I'm going to dive down into that and what that means for you specifically in a second. Now, look at this map. Now, this is kind of the crazy map, I know. This one has a lot going on. Now, this is going out in time. These are a bunch of computer models. All these lines are different computer models. Gives you an idea of how many are out there. Now, this is showing as we go out in time, it's mainly in the green here. This green shading, that's telling me it's going to stay a tropical storm. A few try to creep into this yellow shading, which would be a Category 1 hurricane. This one's kind of out to lunch. But with that said, it could still become a hurricane. But again, we had more that were showing a hurricane yesterday. Now it's actually less. A lot more are keeping this as a tropical storm. It may briefly become a hurricane. It very well could. Like the National Hurricane Center is seeing, I see what they're thinking as well, that if it just continues to strengthen somewhat later today and tomorrow, it could become a hurricane. Now again, watching Bret, I'll get into that further. That spot back behind it, yes, it may develop. As of now, there are no indications that this is going to be a major player. I am watching it. I want you to know I'm watching it. More of the models have a kind of curve away. But again, the focus now is just on Bret. So I'm watching that. And if I'm not talking about you right now, about your location, that's probably a good thing because I'm just trying to really focus on where some of the biggest threats are going to be. So here is the American model. Now, this is a big difference from yesterday. So watch it here. Now, this is as we get into later today, and there's that blob back behind it. Now, here's the thing. The American model is a little bit slower. So it has some of the weather coming in kind of more down the road. It's a bit slower. I'm going to go with the European timing on this, and I'll dive into that further. But this shows you by Wednesday, this is later tomorrow, an approaching tropical storm. it doesn't have it wrap up. Remember a few days ago, it had it already as a hurricane at this point. That's not the case. It's showing late tomorrow that it's still a tropical storm. Okay, so the American model has been off on the track, as we know, and again, it's been off on the intensity. It still brings a tropical storm very close late on Thursday, but I believe it's going to be sooner than this. It's going to work in a little bit sooner into the Caribbean. The timing's a bit off on the American model because I don't just look at the computer models. I look at kind of what's going on now and what's going on in the atmosphere. And by the way, I'm going to dive into the Western Caribbean in a second. I know that blob of rain may be catching your eye, and you can see that area back behind it. Yes, it may develop, but again, putting that on the back burner, this would be Friday, working in some of that rain, but it shows it weakening at that point. So again, all the models show some sort of weakening, gaining a little strength and then weakening and then bringing some rain in. So my friends in Puerto Rico, and I'm going to talk about us in Puerto Rico in a second, for example, again, always a heightened concern with what happened with Maria. I'm not seeing that scenario. Okay, I'm not seeing that. I will let you know everything I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anything like that. So here is the European model, and I know this is a little difficult to see, so let me set the stage. Here's the Caribbean right here. So watching this area here. So the European model, the timing of this and the intensity is more in line. Again, keeping this a tropical storm. This is by the time we get into Wednesday morning right there. So again, not yet in the Caribbean. So tomorrow morning, it's still going to be off to the east as we work our way into our Wednesday morning. That's tomorrow morning. And again, watching that secondary area back behind it, which will be developing some. Now going from tomorrow morning out in time, and let me take you here and stop the clock right here. This is by Thursday morning. By Thursday morning, this tropical storm will be very close to Barbados, St. Lucia, Guadeloupe, Dominica, and Martinique, and I'm going to dive into that in a second. And again, that means some squallier weather, some rain bands working in, okay? So that's by Thursday morning. Thursday morning, we'll start to see that. And again, I'm going to go take you down island by island in just a second. But you see it again. By Thursday morning, that's when some of the weather gets a little rougher, okay? It's not showing a hurricane. If it does at some point, I will let you know. Again, if this really flares up further, but it could. The Hurricane Center is saying, yeah, it could become a hurricane. I see exactly what they're seeing, but then it shows some weakening. Now, this is by the time we get into late on Thursday, we'd have some of the rain even lifting up to the north, seeing that near Antigua and Barbuda, Montserrat, St. Kitts and Nevis. We could see some of that rain that would be filtering in, and then it has it fall apart. Okay, so this is by the time we get into Friday, it just has it fall apart. It has that second system curve away. That's why Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, as of now, it's better news. It's just what it is as of now. Yes, it could get worse. Yes, something could change. Weather changes. But as of now, I'm just not seeing that. You could see it for yourself. Again, it actually has it fall apart generally south of even the Virgin Islands. I'll get into the British and U.S. Virgin Islands in a second. So that's the European model, and there's that secondary area starting to curve away as we get into the weekend. I'll keep an eye on that. There's a chance I could get a little bit closer. Okay, so here's that closer look with the European model. So again, Trinidad and Tobago right here, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and you see Barbados, St. Lucia, and you can see it here. This again is by the time we get into Thursday morning, that's when some of the rain would start to work in. European model has it as a tropical storm, not as a hurricane, but again, tropical storm conditions. You get that kind of flow working in, again, that counterclockwise flow. So that would bring in some of the rain bands. You know how that goes, of course, in the tropics. Again, we deal with that quite often. So we'd see some rain working in Thursday morning, especially central in northern islands. And you see here, this is by the time we get into Thursday night, some heavier rain, anywhere from about Guadeloupe south through St. Lucia, Barbados, even St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We could see some areas of heavy rain late on Thursday moving in. Regardless of the intensity, there could be heavy rain. It could be a tropical storm. It could be a hurricane. It could be nothing at that point, but there's going to be some heavier rain. And then it has it weaken because it runs into some wind shear. But again, I agree with you as far as it kind of has my nerves up a little bit when you see something like this trying to weaken. I'm like, is that really going to happen? So there are reasons, scientific reasons for it to happen. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm watching it carefully because we need this to weaken, and I'll be waiting and seeing if that is is the case with you, but this is by the time we get into Saturday morning, and it could bring some of that extra rain to the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, even a chance that we get some rain over toward Aruba, Curacao, and Bonaire, and then yes, down the road, I'll keep an eye for some extra rain over toward Jamaica with this. But again, yes, we are going to wait and see together if this does weaken. I'm seeing that now, but again, we'll see how that goes once it gets into the Caribbean. Here's the Canadian model. This has been very in line with the European model. It was kind of locked into that yesterday when I showed you that video. And you can see here, high pressure acting like a fence up to the north, so keeping everything to the west. And because this isn't super strong, it has a less likelihood to curve. And that's why, again, the Canadian model brings this in. Now, the Canadian model shows quicker weakening on Thursday morning. Yes, the rain works in, but it actually has it fall apart at that point, going from a tropical storm to really kind of an open tropical wave at that point. So the Canadian model on the weaker side, and there's that system back behind it. And you see the Canadian model by the time we get into Friday morning. There's some of the extra rain near Puerto Rico on Friday morning. And again, watching this here, and I know in the Caribbean, and if you're not in the Caribbean and you're watching this right now, again, you don't need a named system to have incredible amounts of flooding. So I'm on top of that as well. Again, even if it weakens, it doesn't mean things are said and done with. We could have big issues at some of the river crossings and things like that with some flooding. There's that secondary system that shows that curve away. And again, Bermuda down the road, I'll see how that may play into the weather. So this was yesterday. The GFS had this as a big time hurricane curving away, and the European model had it more on that westerly route. But as of now, again, everything is in line with the track. So again, track locked in, intensity still a question, but at least there's consistency with the intensity. It continues to show that strengthening, and then everything shows that weakening in the long term. This here, this red shading and even yellow shading here, I know this map's crazy, so I won't stay on it too long. This is the wind shear, winds coming in the opposite direction. So you could picture a storm coming this way, right? And then you have winds coming this way and just kind of knocking down the storms, so it would help it to weaken. So wind shear, definitely our friend in this scenario, and that's one of the reasons we do expect it to weaken. Yes, the water temperatures are super warm in some spots, we know that, but water temperatures are just one ingredient. Now, this is from the National Hurricane Center. I love the products they put out. They do a fantastic job down there. Again, this is the probability of tropical storm force winds. So you see that yellow shading. So we're looking at a solid at least 50, maybe 60% chance of tropical storm force winds near Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados, right on the edge of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you can see Haiti and the Dominican Republic next to nothing, and even Puerto Rico. Right now, this product is showing about a 5, maybe 10% chance. That's very low of tropical storm force winds, okay? We'll see how this progresses over time, but as of now, that's low, so showing you that. All right, let me get island by island, and again, if need be, I'll zoom down even more so, but I want to take you into different areas to kind of break it down as this approaches. And again, this may approach, Hurricane Center still has it as a hurricane, although they've been backing off on that, may approach as a hurricane or a tropical storm. So Thursday and Friday, right now I'm looking at St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana and Suriname. This is all staying to the north. So northern zones, St. Lucia, Barbados, and especially St. Vincent. Again, I want to say that again, St. Lucia, Barbados, and St. Vincent, make those tropical storm preparations right now. Even the entire St. Vincent and the Grenadines, make those tropical storm preparations. Again, I know means are completely different for what that means for you, what you can do, but you want to prepare for the possibility of those tropical storm conditions and even still the possibility of hurricane conditions moving in. Again, intensity is tough. And yeah, I'll tell you what I don't know, and intensity is very tough, and it's a struggle to really forecast that. So there is that chance. Hurricane Center still has it approaching as a hurricane. So tropical storm to hurricane preparations, always better to be safe. And I always tell people kind of do what you are most comfortable with. Again, in obviously a good fashion, but do what makes you and your family more comfortable. Northern zones near St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, winds could be around 90 kilometers an hour, and there could be upwards of 100 millimeters of rain. That's about 4 inches of rain. Southern zone, 65 kilometers an hour or 50 millimeters of rain. Most of this action stays to the north of Trinidad and Tobago. Not all of it. There'll be some rain bands working in, some gustier winds, but again, Trinidad and Tobago, most of the action staying to the north. Okay, let's get here. This is Thursday and Friday again, so starting Thursday morning, Guadeloupe, Dominica, and Martinique, and this system has the likelihood to pass right over, and it could be right over Barbados and St. Lucia as well. So Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, again, tropical storm to hurricane preparations, okay? Rain up to about 100 millimeters, could be a little bit higher because you know how those rain bands work in. You could get some higher totals. Winds 88 kilometers an hour, 55 miles per hour. Could be stronger. If this does become a hurricane later today and tomorrow morning, I would up the wind. So these maps I'm showing you, yeah, I'll change them. I'll tweak them as I see things develop. But again, I want you to make those preparations in those locations I was just talking about, because I do this channel for safety, nothing else. So I want you and your family, your property to be safe. Make those preparations. Now, north of there, so we get toward Anguilla, St. Martin, over toward St. Bart's, Saba, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Kitts and Nevis, over toward St. Eustatius, Antigua and Barbuda, and Montserrat. Again, we'll see some of those squalls working in. With the center to the south, you get those rain bands working in. So we're going to see things by the time we get into Thursday morning. St. Kitts and Nevis, we'll see some rain bands moving in. So we could see 75 millimeters of rain or 2 inches of rain plus. If we get, say, over towards St. Kitts and Nevis, a rain band that just keeps pumping in, we could get over 100 millimeters of rain. So that's how it goes in the tropics. And there will be some, in those rain bands, tropical storm issues, tropical storm gust. We're going to have some of the gusts 72 kilometers an hour or 45 miles per hour as, again, this wraps in. Now, as we get over toward Puerto Rico, British Virgin Islands, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, I'm not even going to get in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. I have my eye on you. Actually, this channel originated with tracking the weather in Haiti. That's how this channel originated. I'm watching you. As of now, again, not seeing a ton as far as a huge system working in. Watch out for that flood potential, but right here, so I'll zoom down to you as needed as we go forward out in time. But Puerto Rico and the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, if this weakens quickly, say this moves right into the Caribbean and then falls apart, there's not going to be a whole lot. So again, this is a tricky forecast. So again, if it weakens, there would actually be not a lot in Puerto Rico, other than some additional rain, which obviously could cause some problems, but there wouldn't be a lot. So the timing on this here for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, late Friday into Saturday. So more Friday into Saturday, because again, that system needs to work across. But if it falls apart to the south, there wouldn't be a whole lot. As of now, there could be a couple inches of rain, 50 millimeters of rain, winds 35 miles per hour or 56 kilometers an hour. So if you're in Puerto Rico, please share this channel, because I know there's a lot of bad information out there. This here, if you're in Puerto Rico, this may change. It usually does change, and I will tweak it. Again, if this system becomes a hurricane and works its way into the Caribbean, I would have to up this. I would up the rain totals, and I would up some of the winds. But as of now, this is what I'm seeing. Just as it stands now, I show you everything I'm seeing as far as the science is concerned. That's what I'm seeing. And again, if it weakens and just falls apart to the south, there wouldn't be a whole lot. This product from the National Hurricane Center shows the earliest onset, the earliest start to some tropical storm force winds. If it's still a tropical storm, that wouldn't be until Friday near Puerto Rico, but it could be to the south. But you can see, again, the timing I was just showing you in line with this. So as we get toward Barbados and St. Lucia, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Dominica, I've been saying your islands quite a bit. That's where the most of the weather is going to move in. And again, that would be Thursday, or start of that would be Thursday morning. So you want to make those preparations as we go through the day today and tomorrow, and then have everything wrapped up by tomorrow evening for that potential of an approaching hurricane or tropical storm as we work our way into, again, Thursday and Friday. So again, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, Barbados. That's where most of the action will be. Again, these systems are sprawly, though. We're going to have rain issues elsewhere, as I showed you, and that's why I broke it down island by island. As far as the winds go, you see it here. This is the American model, which again is more back in line. So using this, and it's showing some of those very gusty winds. You see them 56, 64, upwards of 80 kilometers an hour. But this is this is going to be a little bit This model is a little bit slower. It should already kind of be in the Caribbean. It's a little bit behind as far as the track is good, but the timing's not. This is 6 o'clock on Thursday. But again, as it works in, it then eventually shows that weakening, and you see it there. There could be some gusty winds, Virgin Islands, as I was just showing you, toward Puerto Rico on Friday, but then it has the system fall apart, and you see that system there back behind it. That becomes a stronger one with some of the gusts upwards of 80 kilometers an hour or even higher. And again, you see here as we work our way into the weekend, it shows the system fall apart. Yes, some gusty winds, yes, some rain issues, but it has that weakening. So you're seeing what I'm seeing. All of the models, and I showed you those squiggly lines earlier, they all show that weakening trend. So if that doesn't happen, that would be kind of surprising at this point. But again, I'm watching for any changes. Got you covered. So there is Bret. Again, it's not better organized at this point. Watching over toward the Western Caribbean, that flare-up of rain. Eastern Honduras, we've seen scattered showers, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama. We've had that isolated flooding in some areas. Still not seeing any development out of this as far as tropical in nature. I've been saying that I think for several days now. I'm not seeing any development here, but I'll watch it. And again, there's been severe weather across the southeast United States, Florida, back toward the northern Bahamas. This is as we work our way into tomorrow afternoon, just so you can have a feel of the forecast. My friends in the Cayman Islands, some rain works in tomorrow. Near Jamaica, I'll keep an eye on that, how close this gets. We've been talking about that for a while. There, by the way, is Bret approaching. So this is tomorrow afternoon. ABC Islands were still dry. If Bret weakens, that would give us a better chance of rain through the ABC Islands. Colombia, Venezuela, not a ton of action, at least along the coast. Then you see by Thursday, more of that rain again near the Cayman Islands. So heads up in the Cayman Islands. We are going to have some flooding in spots from a system that's not named, just this rain that's working in. Belize, we start to get a better chance of rain in the forecast. I was talking about that yesterday. So by Thursday, a better chance of rain. Belize, and again, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, not as much spotty as we get over toward Guatemala and El Salvador, and even the Yucatan of Mexico, not a ton. So again, we had Arlene basically a couple of weeks ago, formed briefly in the Gulf of Mexico. We've got Bret now, and that system back behind it that looks like it will develop. The next name on the list is Cindy, so it would get the name Cindy, and that would already be 3 names so far this season, plus there was an unnamed system back in January. So again, let me recap for you to be as clear as I can. So you could use this information to the best of your ability. Now, Thursday morning, that's when the rain arrives, and I broke down those locations. The rain starts to work in, and we get some of the gust intensity. Such a problem with this, but as of now, it shows some strengthening, and then it shows it weakening again. But again, St. Lucia, Barbados, Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, make those tropical storm to hurricane preparations. Always best to be safe. And then as we get into Thursday, later in the day Thursday, we'll see some of those tropical storm conditions moving in. Friday morning, there should be a weakening trend with this, and then watching that system fall apart, but still tracking those areas of rain, and I'll watch those areas of flooding. So that's how it stands right now. It is on track for my video I showed you yesterday, so I appreciate your trust in sharing this video and sharing this channel to get the word out, because I know there's a lot of panic. I know there's a lot of anxiety this time of year. Trust me, I get it. I've lived through it. I've been through it. And I'm trying to do my best to kind of lower the anxiety, but again, let you know who needs to prepare for what. And I'll do my best to keep you posted on that. So thank you for sharing this channel and being part of this weather community. Leave your comments. Let me know what's going on where you are. And I hope you have a good day ahead.